Great. Thank you so much, Plaza Art, for inviting me and just I am so excited for this session that we're going to have today. I Today is all about creating vibrant mixed media florals and florals have such a when I started learning how to paint watercolors, my first thing that I learned how to paint were flowers. And so I don't know, to me it's just like candy. I always like I try to do faces, I try to do, landscapes, but then my heart just always goes to flowers. So May is so wonderful. Things are growing. I'm here in upstate New York. And I'm just super duper excited that you're able to join us today. And so, yeah, we'll get started. A couple of things that I always like to let people know. If you want to, grab some water. I always have 2 things of water on hand. If you want to, you can grab a drink too. So if you get thirsty, you can drink, but keep them far away from each other because I have had like accidentally tried to drink my paint water. I don't know if that's happened to anybody else, but that has happened to me multiple times. Or like I'll have coffee next to me and then I'll dip my brush in there. So just keep them far away from each other and you should be good. All right. I also love using tissue. I feel like tissue is like my magic. It's not really a brush, but like I feel like it adds texture to the flower. So if you have something like that or a paper towel, please grab that. And we have the PDF of the reference photo, but we're not gonna, these are inspiration. So we're not gonna totally do the exact same thing because that's about, with art, you want to be spontaneous, at least for me. I love being spontaneous. I love being just going with the flow. This might be a good time when you watch this again later to turn on some music and then see if your brush strokes changes as you're painting, things like that. So anyway, before we do any of that, I would like for you to, if you want to use one of those sheets, we can do that, but we're just going to warm up. So if you have a sketchbook, that's also good. Or if you don't, I mean, these papers are great. So if you want to save them to do a second masterpiece, you can, but I'm going to use this for my warm up. Always great to try out your tools first because you never know what magic can happen with the tools that you have. So I'm going to, if you have extra watercolors too that you want to use, feel free to use that. These dot cards are so cool. I've never had dot cards before. And when these arrived, I was just like, it was very hard for me to not play with them. Like literally I had to put them away because I was just like, what magic is this? All right, so put the dot, we'll use the dot cards, but I just want to let you know I'm super excited to use these. All right, so I'm going to put that aside. What I'd like to do is let's play around a little bit with our paintbrush. All right, I'm going to use, this is a cold press. I like to use the side that is smooth, but also, now this is going to be something that you'll know about me as we go on. I change my mind all the time. And then sometimes I like the part that is a little bit rougher. So it just really goes with, what day, but what would be good, and I've done this, is I just try both sides. All right. So pick which one works for you. You might like the side that's more rough, or you might like the side that is smoother a little bit, but it just changes with me by the day, right? Okay, so let's get started. I'm excited. I'm going to use the I always say these words wrong. English is my second language. I just want to throw that out there. So if I say it wrong, I'm originally from the Philippines. I apologize. Alizarin crimson, and I'm just gonna say the red one, okay? Because that one's easier for me to say. So we're gonna take that out, and I'm just gonna dip in water. And I'm going to make sure that my brush is nice and juicy, full of pigment.
So,
Yes.
Joy, just to interject here real quick, I think that the participants got the tubes of these colors, so that
Oh,
should be okay, right?
yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness. If you have, thank you for letting me know that, Lauren. You're right. Um, you can get like a plate, and I have this little palette tool here, but you can get a plate and just squeeze a dollop in there. And watercolors are great because a little goes a long way. So you don't have to feel like you have to use a lot. All right. So what we're going to do is I'll give you a second, just squeeze some on a plate or whatever you have, wax paper, and we are going to practice. So I like to, the aqua are great because there's a variety of brush strokes you can make. So I'm just making lines here. I'm gonna zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. All right, there we go. So I love to do really thin lines and then thick lines. And that's almost like a leaf already, right? So cool. I love how the brushes just gives you these options. You could do, a thick, a thin. A little secret sometimes when I don't feel like painting, I started daily painting practice back in 2015, and I'm still doing it today, but I don't feel like painting all flowers or nature all the time. So sometimes to me, this feels good. Just doing a whole page of just lines, marks, just so you can kind of figure out or get to know your brush a little bit. Get to know the tools that you have. You could do horizontal lines. You could do horizontal lines and press down. So we'll just do a little bit of that. I told you about tissue and adding texture. While it's still wet, I like to press down and see what that does. And already it's looking like something. I don't know what it will be, but it's just kind of fun to see what the different tools will do. So I'll do that with the yellow, and I know you have the tube also, so just squeeze a little bit on there and then practice. If you don't have a lot of colors, you can try to mix the colors together. I'll do a little bit of that. Just take some yellow and then throw in some red in there, and let's see what comes up. I always just like to experiment. There's something fun about that. Ooh, it's a cool orange. All right, so take some time, and we won't take a whole long time doing this, but I always just like to warm your hand up. Because to me, I don't know, I'm in New York and it's still kind of cold. I always have to feel like I have to move my hands. All right, zoom out a little bit here. And then let's try some of these awesome pencils. I love using pencils when I'm sketching, making marks as I'm going along. Sometimes even dots. Dots are great. So this is the sepia dark from Lyra. It's oil, and I love oil because since I use water media and I mix everything, it doesn't move. So that part I really like about it, right? And then this is um the dry, and I think it's sanguine. Here, I'll hold it up. I hope that's how you say it. All right, the other one with the other color. Okay, so just make marks just like that. All right, so now that you have kind of an idea of how your tool works, we're going to use it for some sketching. And I always like to do this too, just to see, ooh, so that gets activated when you wet it. So that's a thing that you could try. Whatever tool you get, see if that's something that you like. Maybe you don't like that, and that's something to remember. right? So they get activated as you wet them, which is great. So as we're going along, if you have any questions, there's an awesome team of folks here that will ask me or they'll answer. So feel free to ask away. All right, now I'm going to turn my paper over, not over, but like this, upside down. And I am going to sketch some flowers, and we're going to use our reference photo and we're going to come up with some ideas. Now, I love using Legos. As you can see, I have it here as my brush holder. I also like to use it for a tool as a square. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm just going to draw a little square. And this is, you don't have to do this. This is just for me because my brain likes squares for some reason. I like things in, I love watercolors because they're super loose, but I love to put them in squares for some reason, sometimes. And my square is not perfect, but that's okay. Things do not have to be perfect. We're being loose and we're being free. Now, I'm going to look at my photos and I'm just going to sketch a few ideas. So this is a really cool flower. I'll talk you through my process. What I like to do is I like to have a bunch of different florals or a bunch of different reference photos. I take a whole bunch of pictures outside too when my family's out hiking, or in the Trader Joe's or different stores that have flowers, but I like to create my own floral arrangement, and I do that by taking a bunch of different photos and then coming up with my own sketch. So I'm going to look at this picture. I like to take a second and be like, what is standing out to me? I like this rose right here, and I also like this flower over here. Just going to make marks. And I love leaves, so I'm going to sketch that a little bit on my paper. You don't have to do this, but this is like a little warm up also for me. All right, so I'm just going to draw that one flower there. And as you're sketching, I like to tell people this. Think of yourself as a little bug, like a bee or butterfly, and you're fluttering along. You're not going to be stuck to one part and making it perfect. You're going to be fluttering and flying all over the place. What do you mean, Joy? Well, I'll show you. All right, so here's that one flower. I'm just going to, I think it's a rose, just making marks. Do you see that? It's really just a squiggle. I'm just making a squiggle and I am going all the way around. And that is it. That's my sketch of that little rose. Later on, I can add more to that, but right now, that's what feels good to me. I'm going to add this rose over here, on this side. See, just like a little bug, you're just flying all over the place. Don't worry about how things look. Like, it does not have to be perfect, right? And then we have another thing here. So sketching this flower out. Okay. And then you can add leaves if you want. Now at this point, you can, it's fun sometimes to add color. So we can do a little bit of that, just so your sketchbook or your page has a little bit of fun looking florals or colors. I made that orange before, so I'm going to use that. This is not going to be a finished piece right here. This is just a sketch. Maybe we'll use our MaimeriBlu dot cards, and I'm going to pick like a nice, I don't know, let's see here. What's a fun color? Maybe a yellow. Oh, wait, we do have yellow here. So maybe I'll do like a magenta, right? Ooh, it just spreads. I love it. So I'm going to do a magenta color and just add a little bit on my sketch. Remember, this is just a sketch. This is not a finished piece. This is just ideas so that later on, if you want to create your own painting using your ideas, you can. So that's why I like to put it in the box. So it kind of gives me a frame of reference like, oh, I should make a painting out of this. I typically do 3 boxes because I just love how that looks in my sketchbook, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. All right, so leaves, because leaves, I'm mixing a blue, an indigo here. So just grab it from your dot card if you wish. An indigo with a green. That gives me like a dark, almost like a shadow green. All right, MaimeriBlu Verde, sap green, and then indigo. And just adding some flower or leaves just to anchor the thing, you know, just to give it a little bit of oomph. So as you can see, we're just taking a bunch of different the different flowers, and we are just making kind of like our own composition.
Hey, Joy, it's Jessica. I have a couple
Jessica.
questions.
Sure.
We had some great questions being asked. One of somebody's asking, Kitty's asking, how do you keep these pencils so sharp? She seems to break them.
Oh, I have an electric sharpener, and that is what I use when I'm sharpening my pencil. It is typically, I don't want to move my setup here, but it's on the floor. It's an electric sharpener, and that's how I keep mine super sharp.
Great. And then one other question, when you're using the dot, can you show us, like, if instead of using the tubes, how you would use the dot card to get the color off?
Oh yeah, of course. So
thanks.
That's a great question. So I just wet my brush, and it's nice and wet, and I'm just gonna take this blue here, and I'm just gonna, do you see how it activates it? If you take your water and just move it around in there, right? Does that answer the question, Jessica?
I think so. That's great. Thank you.
Awesome. Was there anything else? No?
No, I don't have any other comments in the box. Thank you.
Great. This is also, that's such a great question. I love the stock color is kind of, it's blowing my mind how many different colors there are in here. So feel free in your little sketch if you want to add like a different green. Let's see how that looks. A lot of my work really is just about experimenting. So I'm, let's see here. I'm going to grab this crimson or cad red light just to see. Right? So I'm just messing around, putting things in different places. Okay, so that's one. And that's just to show you how I would go about working from a sketch, which we will do also. And then maybe afterwards, when I have my little sketch down, I might go through and add more details in there if I wanted to. You don't have to, but that's what's great about these pencils is you can just go around and add details as you're going along. All right, so that's one way to get some ideas on the page. And then, like I said, after you have a whole bunch of these, you can turn it into a bigger painting, which is what we'll do right now. I'm going to grab a piece of paper. I'll put this to the side. And so this particular painting that I did earlier actually came from these photos. So definitely, you know, like I even changed the orientation of some of them. So we'll do a little bit of that. I'm going to take this the lighter Lyra pencil, and I'm just gonna do a quick sketch, just like we did with our warm-up. Okay, put this to the side. This is the one thing, I like to have my tools like super close to me, so that when I'm working, they're just around. The challenge is I run out of room. Like I end up having stuff everywhere. So that's something to think about. But I do like having all the supplies close by. All right, so I'm just going to sketch and look at this. And why don't you work along with me here? I'm going to start in the corner, and maybe we'll do a little flower here. Just be a little bug. Just go around, land here, land there, very light. Or you could go very dark. It's up to you. Right. Here we go. Ooh, sometimes I also
What
like.
are you using, Joy?
Oh, this is the dry one.
Okay, so they can use the dry sepia light.
Yes, yes. They can use that for sure. The dry sepia light is fine. And I am just making marks, giving myself ideas of, you know, kind of where the flower will go. So that's the big one that I have right here, right? And then this voluminous floral, I'm going to put right here on the side. So just sketch that out a little bit. And there's awesome petals. And this is not going to look exactly like my sketch. It's not going to look like my previous piece of art, because as you're doing this, things just change. One of my favorite artists is Matisse, and I have one of his books, and it's called In Search of a True Painting. And in the book, it has like different ways that he paints, and not just one way. He'll take one subject and paint it in so many different ways. I just absolutely love that. And so I try to do the same. And every single time you learn something new about what you're doing, or things that you like or don't like. All right, so that's just a light sketch. Then I think I'm gonna add this rose in the corner here. And that doesn't even look like a rose, it's just a little bit of a mark. That's just to remind myself to add the rose there. Some circles for the berries. There's little berries right there. So I'm just gonna make that up and put them in different spots. Sometimes when I feel like my painting is a little bit sparse, I'd like to add the berries. I like to add all these little leaves and things just to kind of fill up your page. So that's something to think about too. All right, what else looks exciting? I want to add this rose right here that has like a little bit of a, like the inside is different. So I'm just going to show you how I would sketch it. You see that? It's just very, very loose. It's almost just like a, I don't know, just a scribble. I love to just scribble and then add lines around it. Jumping again. We're gonna do a lot of jumping here. Let's see here. There's these pretty, I'm not sure what this flower is called. So if you know, that'd be great if you could put in the chat. But this one with the blue, is it a thistle? Maybe it's a thistle, right? So I'm gonna add that. That is the one thing I'm challenging myself this year, is learning more trees and learning more flowers. I love painting them, but I need to know what they're called. All right. Hope you're doing okay. And like I said, just doing a lot of little sketch marks. And in this photo, there's even this type of branchly leaf. So I could add that too. And how I would do that is I would probably just do a line and then more lines. All right. So that is my initial sketch. Okay, I'm gonna zoom in so you can see it a little bit there. All
We
right.
did just have a comment to request it being focused more on the drawing, so maybe if we keep it zoomed in more here,
Sure,
it might
yeah,
be helpful.
absolutely. Is that good?
I think that's better. And if you think that's good, just let us know, or if make some tweaks.
Yeah. Is that good? Okay. Oh, somebody said it's a sea holly. Sweet. All right. Okay. There we go. Hopefully that's better. Okay. So I'm just going to go through, and what else can I add here? I'm going to add some more flowers on the inside. And as you can see, I just did a circle. You can do a circle, or if you're doing a rose, maybe something like that. All right. It's a circle with an X in it. Okay. So just super, super easy. You don't have to overthink. It does not have to be perfect. It's just about getting the expression, the idea onto the page. That's what I like to think of it as. All right. So now we're going to add some watercolor. And when I do this, I go from watercolor to pencil to watercolor to pencil. So you might see that. Don't stress. I'm gonna try to remember to say what I'm doing as I'm going through it, but I'm just letting you know I might go back and forth because I like doing that. Sometimes I get bored just adding the paint, and then I have to pick up a different tool just so I can get my mind focused on it again and be like, oh, okay. It's also okay to step away from it. So if you want to do that too, you can step away from whatever you're doing, come back, do it later. All right, so I'm just gonna start with our red that we had before. I'm gonna make my paints nice and juicy. That is a technical term. Just kidding, it's really not a technical term, right? Just load it up with color. All right, so I have color here. And I'm going to, of course, I get it all over my hands. I don't know if that happens to anybody, but happens to me all the time. I'm going to just, oh, look at that. Just drop it into my sketch. And then if it's too pigmented, I could take some water, and this is just water. Just move it around a little bit. And look at that, it starts dancing. That's why I suggest music, because it lends itself to movement. I am my personality is very, I like order. That's why I like Legos. I like things in a straight line. But watercolors have really taught me how to let go and not worry too much about the result. So I think that's why I love using watercolors, because it just kind of, it does its own magic. All right, so now I'm going to take my tissue because I feel like this is great, but maybe I want to add texture. So I'm just going to dab. See that? It adds an automatic texture already. I don't know, I love that. And then later on, I'll come back and maybe add some more pigment. So it's just a lot of trial and error. And when I'm doing this, I am using the tip of the brush, and then I'm kind of sideways moving around. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm gonna mix myself a lighter pink maybe. So we could do, let's use our fun dot cards. I'm going to take a white. Of course, you can't see it, but I'm going to put it on my little plate. And then a little bit of magenta. And let's see what that looks like. So it looks like this. It has a purplish look. And so then I'll add some red in there, just to give a different hue so it's not all the same. And now I'm going to tackle the bigger flower. I'm going to start in the middle, and I'm just going to press down and then lift. All right, very easy. Start in the middle, press down, and lift. Now my brush has yellow on it accidentally, but it's actually adding some cool, like, ooh, I didn't even mean to touch the yellow, but it was left on my brush. So it's adding a different look. All right, so I'm just working my way around here. The petals. Some petals I'm adding more pigment to, some I'm not. So let's see here. This is still super wet, something fun. You could take a different color, like a different tone of red, and just drop it in there and see what happens. A lot of trial and error, a lot of playing around. Moving my way through. And as that's dancing together, I'll take my brush with no pigment on it. It's just water, and I'll see how, you know, drag the paint that way. That's another cool thing about watercolor. It's kind of loose, it's super loose, it's magical, but it also can follow, you know, it'll follow where you want it to go for the most part. If the two pigments are touching. All right, so I'm just going to take some more of my red and add over here. I'm splattering everywhere. I don't know if you are, but I am doing some splatters. It's accidental, so you could just take your tissue. If you don't like it, you could just dab it on there. I tend to like that because it adds energy to my painting. It also hides some mistakes that I do, I guess. When you splatter, you're like, whoops, oh, I meant to do that. So don't worry. All right, so now I'm going to tackle the berries, and I'm going to take some of the indigo, right? Take a little bit of indigo, and you can use your dot cards for that, and put some red. So we're also mixing our own colors. Some of you might like to travel and paint. So if you're travel and painting, you don't have to carry a lot of colors. You could just have a few basics and just, you know, have fun with what you have and see the challenge of, try to see the challenge of creating with the limited palettes that you have. So that's always fun. So I'm just doing a whole bunch of dots, as you can see. And I've already abandoned this flower, so don't worry, we'll come back to it. Like I said, we're going to be doing a lot of jumping around. So if you feel like I'm moving too fast, I could slow down, just let me know. But I am just, you know, once things are drying, I tend to move in other spots. So I used the tissue and I dabbed. Unfortunately, I think I took too much away, so I'm going to add more. And just see how that looks. All right. So I am just working my way through here. And let's see. Now that this is kind of dry, I'm going to take an indigo. So you could use your dot card. You could do an indigo, or you could do like a darker color. Let me see. What color do I want to use? Maybe a Payne's gray. So just activating by putting water on it. And I am going to put it right in the middle of this one rose. Since it's still wet, it's kind of dancing together, so I'm just gonna stop it from stopping the spread by using a tissue, and then dot it again. Okay, I'm gonna do a little jump again. I'm gonna go back to this flower and take some yellow and just put some in the middle. Even though on our reference photo, it's not yellow, it has a little green tint, I'm just gonna turn it yellow. That's another thing. You can turn your flowers to whatever color you want. You don't have to follow exactly what is shown on the reference. It's just for reference. Okay, just doing the other side, finishing it up. My florals are kind of starting to look similar, so I'm going to take my tissue and just dab a little bit just to give it a difference, you know, just to make it look, the petals look a little different. You could also get a darker color even if you want and see how that looks. It's making my way around this flower. Okay. While this is still wet, I'm probably going to move somewhere else, doing a lot of jumping. I'm going to paint this little blue floral. So let's see, I'm just going to mix. There's so many fun choices. It's sometimes I'm like, ooh, which one? Oh, that's a nice color. I picked 391 Ultramarine Light. So that's what I'm using. And then I really want it to be a little darker, so I'm going to add indigo. I also don't mind, and if this is not your personality, please don't follow my my way of working. But I like to just mix right in there. I don't really mind that I make some colors dirty, but if you don't like that, you don't have to do that. But I just like to work fast. When my kids were little, I like to paint while they're napping. And so, or at the kitchen table while they're snacking. So I think it's a habit that I have not been able to shake. Just painting fast, mixing things, just, you know, not really worried too much about paints doing strange things. I'll show you what I mean. This one paint palette that I have, do you see how dirty it is? Because I just dip and I just, you know, it doesn't matter to me where it goes. But like I said, if that's not something you like, please, you don't have to do what I'm doing. All right, so now I'm gonna jump to this little flower down here. And I kind of like that it's this orangey color. And then if you add, I'm gonna mix up here, okay? Hope you can see that. I'm gonna add a little bit of white, just for like a peachy look. Hope you can see that. Just adding Chinese white to the cadmium red light. And I'm gonna try that on here. Very loose. I'm holding my brush far away so that I can't control too much where it's going. And just working my way around this floral. I'll move it up so you can see. All right, taking some more of the red, the cadmium red, mixing a little bit more, and then adding some in the middle, just so it gives it a little bit of dimension. We're adding texture, we're adding dimension, we're being loose. So not everything has to be perfect. because you want your artist hand to show. You don't want it to look like a Joy painting. You want it to look like a you painting. I don't know if you remember this, but when I was learning how to write, or when my kids were learning how to write, they would copy their teacher's handwriting. And as they got older, they developed their own handwriting. I feel like that's how it is when it comes to art. You practice and then you end up developing your own, and that's your own artist hand, which is super cool. It's not anybody else's, just yours. So now I'm taking some yellow, and my water's starting to get dirty. So if you need to go get new water, feel free to grab that. And I am just going to work on this rose over here. And it's not even like going to be a perfect rose. It's going to be what I call a hint of a rose. Add another rose here. And then take my tissue, plop it in, and plop. So it just gives it a little dimension. All right, now I'm taking a second. I'm just looking at this and I'm thinking, maybe I need some green. So I'm going to look at my dot card for a nice green that I like. You pick your own green. That's going to be cool to see later on when you tag Plaza Art in with your artwork, if you're going to post it so that we can see your beautiful creations. But it's going to be interesting to see everybody's take or what colors you end up using. I am using the cobalt green. Put this aside, and I'm just going to add some leaves. And depending on how you press your brush down, you can make a circular leaf, or you can make a leaf that's more pointy, whatever you want to do. I sometimes like to not wait too long. And it's okay with me if things are a little bit wet as I'm moving around, because then there's more opportunities for the paints to dance. Cobalt green light. I'm just really going through all the different colors here and trying them out. Such a cool tool. The dot cards. That's my very first dot card. So I'm adding, just making a these little fizzles. This plant has cool markings or cool leaf petally things. So that's what I'm adding there. That's the my scientific name for cool petally things. Leafy greens, cool petally things. All right. To add dimension to this, I'm going to take our Payne's gray, or you could use indigo, whatever you want. I'm just going to, while it's wet, just drop a little bit in there. And then, do you see how it spreads? So that's fun. If it spreads too much, you could just always take your tissue and put it on there. Dab it. All right, so adding some more colors here. Oh, that's a red. So I'm going to take that off. But also, maybe I'll leave it. Because sometimes I like how, how they dance together. So probably leave that. I'm going to go back to this flower here. It's dried a little bit. Take some of my red. You have some red too, and just putting another layer on top. The cool thing about watercolor, and I think this is why I gravitate to it, is it layers so well. Like you could take the same color, lay the same exact color on top of it, and it just makes it, even more dark. The layering part of it is really, really cool. Just going back again here. I love using the tip of the brush to make petal lines. I'll show you what I mean. That one's a little too thick. these little lines right here, I love to do. And how I do is I anchor my pinky finger onto the side here, and then I just, you know, add lines. But also, if you don't want to use your brush to add lines, you can use your pencil. Okay, adding some more over here. Taking my tissue, just dabbing. Seeing how that looks, spreading some pigment here. Now taking a look back and saying, oh, this looks a little empty here. So I'm gonna pick a green and you pick whatever green color you want and we'll add some leaves. And I'm just starting from the middle, just kind of pressing my brush down. This sprig of berry needs a stem, so I'm just gonna add that. This flower here needs green, so let me look. What color? So many choices. I think I'll do the green light with a mix of a cupric green deep. I've never encountered a cupric color before. That's cool. And put it right here. Just as a hint of leaves. Now, do you see how mine's dancing a lot over there? So I'm just going to take my tissue and that again. And I don't mind that I have these fun little splatters, but if you don't like it, you could use your tissue to take it off if you want. Because sometimes if there's a pigment there and then you put another pigment on top, it might spread. Going back to this flower, the little rose at the bottom, I'm gonna mix some cadmium red light with a little bit of cadmium red medium. Mix those two together, let's see. And then I'm going to add another texture in the middle here, or add another dimension, and then go through and maybe define some of my petals just a little more. And I'm just getting these colors from the dot cards. But if you don't want to use your dot card, you can use whatever color or watercolors you have lying around. All right, so now this is starting to dry up here, this flower. So I'm going to go back and add another layer. Oh, watercolors. You are magic. So fun. Oop, too much water. So if you do too much water, tissues are great for that. All right, so I'm going to take a second and look at my creation here. Just to assess, looks like my rose in the middle is getting some green, so I'm going to just re-wet it a little bit and then take my tissue and dab. And then if it doesn't totally go away, I'm going to take another yellowish color. Maybe this, can you see that? It is Naples yellow medium. And then maybe I'll put it on the sides just to give it another layer. I like that color, the Naples yellow medium. So I'm going to add it to my rose over here. Okay. Take a second to assess and see how your painting's looking. I feel like I need to add more green because we did this little sprig here. So I'm gonna do that and just, you could do a variety of different ways of making that little sprig. You can either turn your flower to the side or you can turn your brush to the side or use the tip of your brush. All right, so whatever it is. Jessica, do we have any questions?
We don't have any questions right now, but Susan just commented that she's really enjoying this. That this is she's a tight painter and has never painted something this relaxed or loose before.
Oh, that's awesome. You just made my day. I love painting like this because I think if I didn't, I would be, details just kind of stress me out. So this is kind of like, I'm glad. I'm happy that you're enjoying this. Thank you so much. All right, so this flower over here, I'm just adding, I think I used a blue, so I'm going to take another blue. I'm just experimenting, taking a different blue. This one is a, I don't know how to say it, Blue de França, France blue. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Also, one of the things that's happened to me this year is all of a sudden I can't see close anymore. Has that ever happened to anybody? This is my year where I have to lift my glasses up to see close. So sometimes I'm not reading the exact right thing. Do you see how I just dabbed it on top just to give it that look of a flower? The cool thing about working this way is people's brains are so smart, and they just, even if you don't like totally tell them it's a flower, their brain would be like, people's brains are just like, oh, that's a flower. So you're kind of making it, you're helping them connect dots. Okay, now this flower seems like it's faded a little bit the inside, so I'm going to take some of my indigo and just go back and dab it in the middle. Now, even though in our photo that rose is a different color, totally fine. We're not trying to make it picture perfect. We're just getting the vibe. Originally I'm from the Philippines, then I moved to California, and I think that's where I get, I always say vibe, even to my children. I'm like, I don't like that vibe you're putting out right now. You gotta fix your vibe. So that's what we're doing. We're just getting the floral vibes. Okay, so here's a leaf. This is a one leaf, but I'm going to turn it into a two leaf situation, throwing in a little bit of indigo or a dark color just to see how that looks. And then the little sketch back there, I don't mind having that there. Maybe I'll turn it into another leaf. So I'll just take some of the green that's already up here and then pull that color over. Right, so that kind of hides that one little sketch. We have more leaves up here, so I'll add that. Really, the brush is doing the work for me. It's adding, you know, the different kinds of line widths that's perfect for flowers. Okay, I'm just grabbing some green from my dot card. I don't mind that it's all mixed in here. It's okay. Taking some more of my excess over here and repurposing it, recycling, if you will, into a different portion. So now I'm looking at my page and I'm like, oh man, I feel like I need one more yellow somewhere because we have 2 yellows. I always like to work in threes and make things in threes because they just look more pleasing to my eye. So I'm just going to add another flower over here. And really, when I say flower, I just really made a circle of yellow. That's all I did. Okay. Now, while that's sitting there and just kind of drying, I'm going to take my Lyra oil pencil and I'm just going to draw a little bit on top of some of my, not on all of them, but just some on top, like this rose. I'm just making sketches here. Just drawing on top a little bit. You can even use, if you have red, like a red color pencil, you can do that on top of what you have. But I always like to do little lines, because some of these petals have lines in them and it just adds that drama. I also like unfinished leaves. So sometimes I'll just, like this leaf right here, I'll just sketch another leaf at the top, as you can see. And I won't even put color in that. I'll just leave it like that. Let's see here. Maybe like a petal back here that you can't really see that well, but just a hint of some petals if you want.
Joy, is the paint wet where you're applying that over it, or is it mostly dry?
It's kind of wet. It's not dry yet. I kind of like how this is the oil pencil. I like how it looks on top of white or wet, because sometimes the oil pencil, as you can see here, it kind of makes it darker. So I do a mix of both. Sometimes I do it on the dry and then sometimes I do it on the wet. This is the oil pencil. Okay, and this one, I'm going to just turn this into a flower by going around it a little bit more. Maybe this one that I just did a sketch, I'm just gonna put a little squiggle in the middle and then give it a hint of a flower look. It's up to you. I would experiment. Sometimes I like to, some people don't like to do this, but I do it all the time. So I just take my water and then I just dip my pencil in there just to see what that does. You know, so really up to you. I'm just going through adding more leaves that are not totally finished, unfinished leaves. You can actually test it with dry. Try it dry or try it wet. This is wet right here. So when I put it on there, it looks darker, as you can see. And then this is dry on the side. When I put it, it's not as activated. I like both looks. Just really your preference. All right, let's see. What else can we add here? Maybe we'll add, since we have one blue over here, maybe we'll add another blue floral somewhere, because why not? Or you can even do a blue leaf if you want. I'll try a blue, maybe we'll do a blue flower down here. So I'm just smushing my brush down, a brush smush. All right. Not perfect, just a smushy brush. Maybe take a different color. I am now like gonna use this all the time. I can see myself carrying a dot card in my sketchbook when I travel and just like using those paints. I'm just dipping while it's wet in the corner, just to add that little pizzazz. These are very scientific, artsy terms that I'm saying, pizzazz, juicy. That's just how I learned how to paint. I went to school as an art teacher, so I mean, as a teacher, I was an elementary teacher for many, many years. And so I did not go to school for art. So these things I learned by just practicing. So that's something to think about. Give yourself like what I did was I gave myself a 7-day practice. And then that 7-day practice blossomed into a year. And then the year has now turned into however many years since 2015. My kids won't let me stop painting every day, but I don't always just use watercolors. I do other things now. Okay, I'm actually looking for, let's see here, a different blue just to try. And then putting it here with this flower just to see how that looks. Okay. If your flowers are looking kind of sparse, you can always add stems and leaves. And that's what I'm doing, just adding stems and leaves. This one flower here looks lonely, so I'm gonna add another leaf and then another, because why not? Sometimes I like leaves that hug the flower, so that's what I'm doing there. So this is very far from our original, from our photos that we use as inspiration. And it's also different from the first painting that I did. So it doesn't always have to be exact, right? Because we're just playing and having good time. All right, so I am going to fix the middles of some of these florals. So I'm gonna activate the color in the middle and I'm going to dab it. So that made it super light. I'm gonna take my oil pencil and I'm just gonna give myself like a center in there. Just say squiggly center. And then if you wanted to, you can get an indigo or a darker color and put it in the middle, whatever you like to do. And this is a mixed media technique because I am just mixing all the media. We're using, watercolor, we're using pencils. Sometimes I even love to throw oil pastel in there just because that adds a different texture. So if you have that, worth a try to play around with. Okay, so this side maybe needs some flower or leaves. So I'm just gonna pick a color that I have not picked yet. And try it out. That one is activating a little bit. So I'm gonna try a different one. If it's not activating for you, just get more water and then put it on top. I'm gonna add a leaf over here. And while that's going on, while that leaf is right there, I'm gonna take my pencil while it's wet and I'm just gonna draw right on top of it. Just to give it a little drama.
Hey, Joy.
Yes.
While you're working, we have a good question. Michelle's asking, how do these watercolors compare to other brands?
How do these watercolors compare to other brands? I like them. Their pigment seems very, very, can I say the word again? Juicy. They're very, very lush. Some watercolors, depending on the grade, can be not so, like you would have to use a lot of the pigment. But these seem to work great. This is coming from a set, the Daler-Rowney set. This is a new set, so that's why it does not look messy, but usually my sets are well loved. That's another way of saying messy. They usually have a lot of paints are everywhere, but I like them. I use them. I travel a lot. We like to go camping, and so I take these paints with me when we camp, and they seem to work well. I work a lot in my sketchbook also, and they're fine. I use a mixed media sketchbook. Does that answer the question? I hope. I like the pigments. I like how juicy they are. With other brands of watercolor, there's some that are super pigmented and then some that are student grade, but these seem to be working fine. I like them a lot.
Michelle says, yes, you did answer her question.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. I'm like, oh no, did you want me to say more? Okay. So I'm just working through. Yeah, the Daler-Rowney ones are great. They have smaller sets too. This is the one that is, let me see. I think this is the 24 one. Let me look. I guess I could count them. This is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 times 3. Yes, 24 set. But I know they have a 12. And as you can see, I just, you don't have to have a lot of colors. You could just have a few, even just the primaries of the kinds you like a Prussian blue or an indigo, and get yourself a red that you like. And then here, I'll zoom out a little bit. You just get a red that you like, and then you can mix. And the great things about these palettes is you have a little mixing area. So you could just mix your colors in there, whatever you like. So you don't have to have a lot. I sometimes just use a teeny tiny palette, and it's a great challenge to try to see how you do with the small amounts that you might have. All right, so I'm feeling like this is good. I like it, but I want to add some more detail. So I'm just going to go through and get another. I really like this, a dark red. So I'm going to use my dot card. Oh, I think that's too dark. Maybe I'll do the magenta. See, now you can see how I'm like just trying different ones. Crimson Lake with a little bit of magenta. Let's see how that looks. And I'm just gonna go through and add some more to this one flower, because I'm feeling like, you take your red that you have, I'm feeling like some of it is, I'll zoom in. There we go. Some of it's just a little too light. So I'll just go through and add a little bit more. I feel like I'm saying drama a lot, but that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give it a little bit more drama. A little bit more oomph. Some energy. Right, so now I'm just going through some of these greens. I want to add a little bit of a dark color to this, so that's what I'm doing. Let's see. This one yellow flower, I'm just going to add another dot of a dark color. And if you don't like it, you could just take your tissue, plop it on there. And my old sketch is still in there. So that's what I'm adding there. Let's see. I feel like this corner needs some leaves. So I'm going to take my other marker. Nope, not a marker. Color pencil. And I'm going to add leaves. That maybe I'll add more color later. I'm not sure. Going through and sketching. Was there a question?
Yeah, Joy, Leslie has a question. It's a great one. I know we're using the watercolor paper here, but she's asking if you need any specialty paper, like do you just use the watercolor paper or mixed media paper?
I tend to use mixed media paper, but I also like the watercolor paper. The watercolor paper is great if you're using watercolors specifically because it plays well together. I have used some sketchbooks sometimes that I didn't realize was a different kind of page or a different kind of weight, and that gets frustrating. But definitely play around with the different papers that you have. I would even suggest, you know, if you have a sketchbook, just do a little trial like this on it, you know, on the part, and see how your watercolors play with your paper. And that's really how I would suggest my students to you know, figure out which supplies they like, because the supplies that I use might not be ones that you end up liking, so definitely worth trying a few different types: watercolor, mixed media. I've been even going through a toned tan phase, like a toned tan paper and watercolor. Those those together are so fun. Let me just show you 1 second. I have my Strathmore Tone Tan sketchbook here, and it works great with watercolor. It's a mixed media. I'm just gonna, I think that's in the giveaway. Aren't you giving a mixed media sketchbook, right? Is it like the if you sign up or something?
Yes, yes, in
Okay.
the
Yeah, so that's a really cool thing. Mixed media sketchbooks are my favorite. I'm going through a tone tan phase, so this is on a tone tan watercolor and color pencil on make Strathmore tone tan. So just play around and see what you like. I know that doesn't sometimes answer it specifically, but what you like, what I like might not exactly be what you end up loving. So, but these are all just suggestions. I'm just going back through the berries using the oil and just adding definition. And then going back to this flower. It looks like a bud, so I'm going to take a yellow ochre, and I'm just going to just do some of the petals. You don't have to do the whole thing, but if sometimes I like to just it close to the center, just add like a darker color just to give your flower a tiny bit of dimension. Right? So yeah, mixed media is what I tend to use, but I do also use watercolor, paper. Trying to think of if there were other ones that I end up using. I know there's drawing paper that's just sketch for markers and different things. People like to use that too. But I tend to use in my arsenal even when I'm traveling, I carry around watercolor paper with me or mixed media paper. And these papers are great because you could cut them into small sizes to fit in a small notebook or something, which is great. All right, so I'm just looking through now and just my composition here is a little bit dry. So sorry about that. The noise that the water makes. I'm just going through and defining some of the things that I had sketched previously. So as you can see, I'm not going through every petal. Like this one, I just did the bottom, added pigment in the bottom, and just letting the watercolor do its magic. Then I'm going back to this flower here. That's the orangey, grabbing some orange, which is not really orange. It is cadmium, red medium. And adding just a little bit more just to give it some more definition. Feel free to add background to this too if you like. That's always fun. Just now I'm just like going through and adding, I took a green and I'm just adding some hints of leaves. It's not even like specifically leaves, just little marks, little tick marks that look like leaves. Take my tissue, dab a little bit here. Right. Adding some more sketchies. Because sometimes I change my mind. I put down just like a watercolor leaf and then I'm like, oh, I want more definition in there. So then I just add it. If you want your leaf to look like a leaf, you could put like a middle and then you can draw lines like that if you wish. I sometimes am too lazy to do that, so that's why my leaves only look like outlines, but I kind of like it that way. Or homework. Oh, you didn't know you were going to get homework, right? It's the teacher in me. I can't help myself. For homework, maybe you could do it again in a different way, trying a different color combination. You can even try making this maybe more like a wintry look. Maybe the flowers be purple. We didn't really use a lot of purple and blues. You can stick to just the yellow and pinks. That would be fun to see if you end up doing that. Or another homework you could do is make more of these little boxes and do some sketching. Playing around with the tools. I like to do boxes all the time, like I told you. So I'm seeing if, let's see, is this, yeah, see, just little boxes everywhere. Boxes are fun for me. I don't know why. So I love to fill, even like trees, I do boxes and another box. So you could fill your sketchbook or your page with a bunch of boxes too if you want. All right, so I know that at a certain point you were going to take a picture, right? Is this a good place to take a picture?
This is.
Okay, great.
Okay, guys. So if you want to share, all of us would love to see your work.
Yes.
If you want to turn on your video, if you don't have it on your camera, you can change over to gallery view for your viewing from speaker, and you can see everyone else. Go ahead and share what you made today. Wow.
These really are my favorites. These are
They're
fantastic.
beautiful.
Awesome.
Oh, wow.
Love these. The colors are so vibrant. I think I like that Kubrick green that you use.
Can I remove my spotlight just so I can see everybody's too, if that's okay?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Let's see.
Yay! Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I can stare at these all day. Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much for creating this
Very
with
nice.
me. I love how we went through the same, like, we used the same photo, but like everybody's work is so you, just so specific to you. I mean, that is wonderful. So
Wow,
beautiful.
Margaret's is so pretty. So
Thank you.
different. Everyone's is so different. Awesome. While we're admiring everything, does anyone have any additional questions, or does Joy, do you have any extra tips, points?
Sure. I'm just gonna scoop back into my my work here. I don't know if you want to pin. Is that okay? Does that look good?
Yep.
Okay. Please tag me. I am at Joy Charde on Instagram. And I would love to see your work too. And I know the Plaza team loves seeing everybody's work. So if you could hashtag use create with Plaza art, that would be amazing. And just some things that I still want to keep fiddling around with this. So don't feel like you're done. If you want to go back and be like, oh, I feel inspired to add more, please add more. One of the things that I would like to just tell people is look at the stuff that you have at home and play around with that. Like use the different tools, because sometimes I forget what I have, and don't feel bad that your dot cards kind of look like that. That just means you had fun, okay? You had so much fun. You played around, you jumped in there. So please use the dot cards. Just play with the tools you have, and then just try practicing things every day, and then your artist hand will grow, not grow, but your artist hand will show itself. And just like your handwriting, when you're signing things or writing things, your artist hand will start to really show, and people will be like, oh, that's, you know, Tisha's artwork or Margaret's artwork, that's Sarah's handwriting. You will start to emerge. So that's what I like to leave people with. I don't know if you
Awesome, yeah.
wanted to say any closing things, Lauren or Jessica.
I
No,
think
just
we
want to thank
covered,
everyone.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you guys for being here with us today. Joy, I know this is your second time with us. It's a pleasure every time. And for me, seeing how wild you can get with your colors and your style, and you're just like, oh, that's okay. I'll just make it into this. The improvisation is really fun to see and to learn. So
Yes, thank
thank
you.
you. And yes, everyone, if you do your homework assignments that you got from Joy today, post
Yes,
those,
homework.
tag us, tag Joy. Thank you guys so much for coming. We'll see you on the next one. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Happy painting.
Thank you. Thank you.